What day is today? Who are you?
So it's already.
It's already going. Yep.
Good. Sorry about that.
That's all right. All right. So another question people always or seem to ask a lot at contests is, what is your favorite piece of gear? So Woody, do you have a favorite piece of gear? And if so, what is it?
You know, I've got a lot of different gear, and it's been given to me and acquired throughout the years. It's hard to nail down one piece of gear that means a lot because they all have individual stories, and I think you guys can reflect on that too, or relate. I wear certain things to certain different venues and certain parties because, you know, of the memories that I have in each thing. You know, I've got a pair of chaps that was gifted by a buddy, and then a gentleman made them fit me because they didn't at all. And 2 days after he finished fitting them to me, he died. So it was one of those things that, you know, you just, one of those memories you think about. A fantastic leatherman or leather maker that's, you know, gone. Every time you put them on, it's something you think about. If I had to nail down a most favorite thing that I have in all of my collection of gear, it's this right here. And it's not because of the representation of having won. It's because of the connection that this has with every other of the 1,700 some guys that have also worn this. It's something that connects me throughout all of my brothers and the generations. So that's all I'm going to say about that.
Yes, the medallion ceremony, very special. So speaking of special events that are occurring during IML, we're going to have some fun roasting him. So we're going to not ask any of those questions tonight. So we'll be kind to you tonight. But maybe. But do you have anything special planned for your step aside speech?
Yes.
Always anticipate the if so, what or why.
Anything to share?
No. Come to IML 2013 in Chicago, Illinois at the end of May.
That's www.imrl.com.
Oh, all right. So Woody, I know that you've done a lot of traveling this year because, you know, that's one of the things that you do. Is there anything interesting that happened on any of your flights?
I am an 8th member of the Mile High Club. No, you know what's interesting? I didn't realize there were so many gay and or leathermen flight attendants in the world. But I made it a habit about, you know, maybe a third of the way through my title year that I wore my vest whenever I got on the plane. And the first time that I did, I ended up escorted to the front of the plane by a man named Woody, whose husband was a porn star, and he proceeded to hand me a barf bag full of vodka.
Vodka bottles, not actually full of vodka.
Yeah, right? And then when I got...
Just got to clarify that for a second.
When I got off the plane, he had proceeded to make a roadie for me to get into the cab with. So I had a Bloody Mary in a to-go glass for the cab ride to International Leather Sur that year. The other thing, I mean, and this is just kind of funny, I went to, recently I was flying home from, I think it was Los Angeles, I don't remember, but this flight attendant brought me up to the galley and proceeded to pull out his iPad and show me all the pictures of him naked in leather gear and harnesses. He's like, I know you're a leatherman, you'll appreciate this. So.
Well, I guess that kind of leads me into the next question. What is the experience that has impacted you the most over your title year?
Yeah, impact. I do like impact. You know, two things happened. And the first thing that impacted me, I think throughout my entire title year, happened before my title year began as IML. It was during my Michigan reign. I was at the Eagle in Washington, D.C. when a gentleman was standing next to me at the bar, and he was kind of, I guess, lack of self-esteem, so to speak. And I just, you know, anyone here who knows me, I talk to anybody, and sometimes it's hard to get me to shut up. But I just struck up a conversation with the guy, and he was there by himself, and I introduced him to all my fellow title holders and stuff. And we just had, probably 20-minute, half-hour conversation. And then I actually saw him. He actually came to IML after that and sought me out after I had won, and just gave me a big hug, and he's like, I'm so proud of you, and yada yada. About a month later, I was having dinner with Bob and my grand Jim, and I got a Facebook email from this guy, and apparently he was done with the leather community, and he was really having a hard time fitting in his new place, and as a result of just us taking the time to speak with him and welcoming him into our little circle and giving him some place to be during that one bar night, he joined another leather club in his area, which then spun into him starting another leather club closer to him, and he has just had this renowned impact and this happier life with these brothers that he never thought that he would find, just by letting himself be accepting of this community that we have. So that was one of them. And so the other one is a shorter story, and it's kind of a sadder story. I talked to everybody, right? So I was on the plane, and sometimes you can learn the most things from the people that you never thought you'd learn from. I was sitting next to this little woman, and we were talking. She says, "Why are you flying all the time?" And I said, "Well, I'm doing this IML thing," and it was very upfront and blatant about the IML and what we did. And I started talking about Mr. Friendly, because that's where I kind of go with stuff. And she ended up telling me about her friend who was having a hard time, and he was advanced HIV. And he was kind of almost on his deathbed. But she had this work trip to go to, and he was pretty stable, so she was flying from, I think, San Francisco to Washington or wherever. So we proceeded to have this really good conversation, and we had this renowned, treatments are going so far, and, she was hopeful that he was going to snap out of it and that Elvis was going to be good. And we had just a wonderful conversation. At the end of the conversation, we started to land, and we stopped the plane, and all of our cell phones popped up. And that friend of hers had actually turned for the worst on the flight to Washington and passed away while we were flying and talking about him. I was there for a reason at that point. And I truly believe that this is why it's important to talk to all these people and to just be yourself and have these open conversations with people, because we're spreading these messages of acceptance. We're spreading these messages of faith and hope. And she needed a hug, and right then I was able to be that person. So that was very impactful, and another reason that I will speak to everyone openly and freely about myself and stuff.
Thank you for being who you are.
Those questions aren't allowed at the roast.
This isn't going to be all sad, I promise.
So as one of your IML judges, I actually found out I was going to be one of his judges at Mr. Michigan Leather before he won. So I knew I could never talk to you in advance of the contest. Yet you still came in pretty prepared. Could you tell us about how you prepared to compete at IML?
An amazing community, a network around me, just giving me an inspiration to want to do well. Huge support system at home. One of the major things that I did actually was to sit in a room and get screamed at point blank by Larry Golovsky. That was one of the turning points in my preparations for IML. I had done writing all these things that I wanted to say, and I'd scripted out all of these ideas that I wanted to convey, and then after I got to Los Angeles and got screamed at by Larry, it got put into perspective that all of that was just bullshit. And I sat down on the floor of an airport in Denver on the way home and really did a gut check minute and thought to myself, why in the hell am I doing this? What is it that I have to say and to give back here? And I kind of threw all that preparation out the window and just went to IML and did Woody. and did Woody as well as I could do it. And it's amazing how confident you can be at conveying yourself when you figure out who it is you are.
Very cool. I'm not going to throw RuPaul moment in there and say, because if you can't love yourself, who can you love, or whatever it was. So kind of it leads into the next, you watch it, don't you? Kind of leads into the next question. How do you feel you've changed over your time of year?
I think that I don't know if I've changed. I don't think that's the appropriate term. Well, I guess that'd be kind of conceited as well. I definitely I've gained a lot of experiences. I hope that I was a good person going into this, and that might be why I was able to have this, this blessing. But I think that I've been supplemented by the good experiences and maybe become even better at the things that I already was doing.
What he's neglecting to say is we have a saying in Michigan, IML didn't make Woody a diva. Woody was already a diva before this began. Or is that a roast one? I don't know. We'll do that. With that in mind, is there anything you would go back and do during your year and do it differently?
No. I am definitely a person of no regrets. I've made my mistakes over the years, and I'll make a stupid Trekkie quote here, but if you think about and I know a lot of Leathermen are sci-fi geeks, but you know the whole Janeway rule. If you change anything, it kind of screws up the time continuum. I'm damn happy and damn proud where I'm at right now, and if I changed anything, I might not be sitting where I'm at today. So no, I don't think that's.
Fair enough. So you have a lot of this upcoming IML class here, and you're going to be one of the judges. So could you perhaps let us know what you look for in a contestant?
Being a Leatherman, he does know me pretty well. Being a Leatherman to me is 95% about the man, 5% about the gear. I've always said that you can dress a pig up and make him look pretty, but they're still a pig. Not that there's anything wrong with being a pig. But that's just it. As far as I'm concerned, there's a lot of questions that come up about, historical relevance, and knowing your history is fantastic. Knowing where you came from, having a desire and willingness to learn and just be respectful about all that stuff, that's incumbent. But you can read a book. You can't read a book and be a good man. So that is, dating back to what I said, figure out who you are, be yourself, and convey yourself in the best ability you're able to do. That's all you can do. If you try to be someone else, then that person is the person that's competing. And if they win, it's not going to mean a damn thing to you.
Kind of going along those lines, I know you've judged a lot of contests. What is the best question you've heard in an interview, and what is the most god-awful worst question you've heard asked in an interview?
I haven't judged one person in this room.
You haven't?
In a contest. I know.
Not that we're judging you all right now. It's okay. No pressure. I am not going to give away trade secrets. I like to steal good questions, and I kind of have a reputation as a judge, so I'm going to leave those alone. So the good ones will stay behind, but the bad questions, if someone ever puts a chair in the middle of one of my interview rooms and expects someone to be tricked into sitting into it, no, they're going to get smacked. Judging someone isn't about trickery. So those are the types of questions that bother me. So those are the god-awful questions. I also, I'm not an enormous fan of the age-old who is Tony DeBlas and what the lot of pride flag mean. I love the question, yes, you should know that, but it turns into such an argument and it turns into a trickery question at the end. So those are two of my least favorite questions. He also says that because having been a judge at his first contest, Mr. Liberty, he actually sat down in the chair. So just bear that in mind. Am I next or are you? I've got that one. We've got little cheap cue cards. We can edit this out later because it's my iPhone recording it. Well, I just got a general one that says, all right, tell us about the IML weekend experience, both as a contestant and as the person that won. I think my mic's running out.
My IML experience can be summed up in an image that I have that I texted my husband moments after I got my contestant medallion. I literally went back to my hotel and I just sat there and I looked at myself in the mirror, and I'm not gonna lie and say I didn't cry. I was very touched by the connection that I had at that point with, like I said, the 1,700 some men that had been in that position before. The IML experience is a whirlwind. I actually can't tell you all that much about what happened after I won. I know that I handed my phone to Bob and he responded to my text messages. I will tell you though, the best piece of advice considering this question that I ever got was from Jeffrey Payne when he said, do yourself a favor, find your internal video recorder and set it to go or record, and just let that happen all weekend because it goes so fast and there's not a moment that you will want to miss. It's going to be different for everyone, and it should be because it's your own experience. Just open yourself up to it. Don't be afraid of the emotions that you probably have, and have fun.
Your IML class, I got to know very well, and some amazing people in there. But it was also known as one of the youngest IML classes. And there's been lots of discussion about that, whether, when you compete at IML, why do you choose when you compete? Should that be towards the end of your leather journey, or maybe something you'd want to do at the beginning of your leather journey? So could you maybe speak, is this the trend that you're seeing, that younger leathermen are going for the IML experience?
I think that there are a lot of younger leathermen that are running than in the past, yes. I think that that's probably representative of our times. We are kind of on the cusp of some major social changes in the world. We've got the first ever president that's acknowledged that he supports us in the equality. I think that is part of the reason. There's a lot more networking communication now. They jokingly called me the first Mr. International Facebook when I got off the stage, but and that's because everything's so much more available, and there's a lot of the younger generation that are on this medium all the time. So it's just kind of in their faces a lot more. So they're figuring themselves out, and they're a lot more relaxed and acceptive of those kinks and fetishes and desires and just being able to be themselves than they used to be. As far as whether or not they should or shouldn't run, at what age they should, stand up to be representative, it's really up to you. Some people aren't ready at a certain age in their lives. Maybe, you want to be in your 50s, 40s, 60s, who cares? One of my really, really good friends, Josh Watson, is a perfect example of this. He's an amazing, amazing guy. Very, very young, and he came to me and asked me, do you think I should run for a title? And I said, I can't answer that for you. He made the decision not to because he doesn't think that, he understands himself as a Leatherman right yet. So you have to make the call yourself.
I definitely found it to be true that a lot of your classmates are very driven, compassionate people. Like, I want to make a difference, and I'm going to use this title to make a difference in my community. And it just happened to lead to IML as well.
Yeah.
So, thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
We know that, excuse me, contests always strive to make themselves better by doing different events, or, it's cool. What do you think can be improved with IML as far as making that contest week better?
The outgoing IML shouldn't judge until the following year, so I don't have to make a spreadsheet. I think that a lot of people, a lot of you guys know what I'm talking about. I really think that it's an obstacle of mine because I am traveling so much and I am getting very close to the class that's coming in, and I believe that I could be better served as a mentor throughout the year if I didn't have to throw up a little bit more of a wall as far as the interaction that I have with you guys. I am incredibly proud of the class that's coming in. You guys are doing some things that just tickle me and make me smile. Every time I turn on my computer, get a text message, have one of my eyes out in the field that are, sending me, did you hear? So you guys should be really proud of yourselves and what's going on, and know that I do see that and think that.
Having a title such as yours can be very challenging on a relationship, and I can imagine some of you, to decide to run for a title is a family decision. Absolutely true. So can you tell us, your family's actually even grown a little bit. So can you tell us about what's making your family work?
The first time that my Bob and I went to MAL, we got home from the conference and he said to me, I ain't doing this title holder shit. And it wasn't because of that. It was very hard for him to sit back and see all that was going on. And it is very, very difficult for the spouse, the title widow, so to speak. But after that moment, we just kind of had a realization, as most relationships do, you have to communicate, right? I mean, this kind of goes without saying. And we started talking more. We started having kind of more scheduled how are yous, what can I do for yous, and as a result, the rest of our relationship got very much more open to communication, and our relationship has grown and become stronger as a result of IML. We sat down and we said, okay, these are the expectations. These are the things that are probably going to happen. And then, lo and behold, along the way, we found a puppy who was probably the biggest surprise of my IML year. We weren't looking to adopt, but he has become a dynamic within our relationship that has, I think, made us even stronger because we see so much more of the world through his perspective because it's so different than Bob and I's, which has been kind of the last 6 years of us just, trudging through this world by ourselves. We've seen everything kind of through the same tunnel. We were walking down the same road, and the pup came in, and all of a sudden, he's off in left field going around a roundabout, spinning around looking for bones or what have you. So, communication.
Very cool. As IML, you've met a lot of people. Who's the one that stands out the most in your mind?
Do I have to pick one?
Well, considering the time frame.
Yeah, I like to talk. Lenny Broberg. Uncle Lenny has been a backbone for me. Somebody to talk to, someone to bitch at, someone to just confide in, and incredible support and a source of knowledge throughout this year. So I would definitely have to say Uncle Lenny.
Is there anyone you haven't met that you would have liked to have met this year?
Michael Egdes, my brother, actually 2006, 5, sorry. Yeah.
I made you 13.
Yes. Michael lives in Barcelona. When I won IML, he was the first to contact me via Facebook, and we talked for about a month, once a week, just kind of how are you, what are you doing? And I really connected with him. I think he's an incredibly beautiful person. I think he's extremely fucking hot. And he's an incredible writer, and I love that artistry in people, so I want to meet him.
And I was there for his 54-minute step-aside speech.
Yeah, I was backstage in a jock.
I will not be doing that.
And I had no trouble listening to his sexy voice for 54 minutes. It was.
He's got an accent.
Would you like to? You had an amazing IML class. Maybe could you highlight anybody else in your class that maybe you could think of that are doing some cool things?
A few people come to mind. I don't like to call out people specifically because I'm going to miss a million people, and they're all doing amazing things in their own respective communities. Definitely, people that stand to mind is like Derek Harley, your daddy. He was one of the orchestrators of throwing the Mr. Friendly campaign, to Team Friendly and making that the branches of the Team Friendly do what it does today with the training. People like Ron Mosier in Washington D.C. Ron is not a guy on stage. He's the guy backstage, making sure everybody's pripped and propped and all the nuts and bolts are screwed in. And he's a doer, so he definitely deserves accolades. Jeff Gruenberger just has been such an amazing support for me, and takes inspiration from everything that he sees and tries to implement it in some way in his community. And it's so commendable to just absorb and try to recreate. I think that's flattering to all the people that he's mimicked and tried to replicate good efforts. So there's a 3.
Andy's really hot as a fireman.
And in neoprene checks. I've got the last couple, so.
We probably should get going.
Okay. That's fine.
How do you remember your class? How do you think your class will be remembered?
My class?
Yes. What would the community say?
The class of 13? Gosh, or 12?
Look at when I started. Sorry, guys, you're gonna have to be next year.
The class of 2013, the class of 2012. I mean, we were huge with the Mr. Friendly. The whole class was. We were huge with the be who you want to be. It's something that I thought about specifically when I was going to run for IML. It was kind of one of those gut check minutes when I was sitting in the Denver airport too. You kind of want to think to yourself, what is it that I can give back? What is it that I'll be remembered for? And when I got off that stage at IML, you kind of think, what will my legacy be? And I put a lot of stress on myself for that. And then I thought to myself at the end of that, long and scary conversation in my head, it's not for me to decide. I'm just going to do me, like I said, and then at the end of my year, that's, that it is going to be what it is. I think, and I hope, that I personally will be remembered as the person that was approachable. I really encourage people to be themselves, and I appreciate it when people say things like, I didn't know who you were, if that makes any sense. I just want to experience the conversations. You learn a lot from people, and you become a better person because of the experiences you have with people. And it's important to utilize this lifetime to absorb as much from the interactions we have with people as you can. Whether those interactions are good or bad, you're going to learn something. And if you don't, you're doing yourself a disservice. I think that that's something good to be remembered by.
And before Bob asks the final questions, is there anything we didn't ask that you would like to ask?
Oh, sorry.
Anything you didn't?
Anything we didn't cover?
They pretty much got me pretty good, didn't they?
We're good.
I'm good. Do you guys have anything?
Well, they've got, yeah.
We'll give them a chance.
We're going to have a couple. I'll ask a couple of quick ones while Dave is going out there getting ideas from the audience. So these are just going to be little quick ones. Woody, what's your favorite word? The word I do use those often. The word I probably use the most is fuck. That would lead me to my next question. What's your favorite curse word?
Frat.
Frat. What's your least favorite word? These all came from Dave Watt, by the way. I'm just reading them from the cards.
Actor studio.
Sup. Sup? Oh, goodness. What turns you on creatively, spiritually, and emotionally?
Puppy!
Music.
And what turns you off emotionally, creatively, and spiritually?
Onions.
What sound or noise do you love?
Ocean.
What sound or noise drives you batshit crazy?
The sound of parents that can't control their kids.
I love that one. Oh, I already did the what's your favorite curse word. When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Interesting enough, and as boring as this is, I wanted to be a banker. And I am a banker today. But when I was in college, I had this revelation that I didn't want to be a banker anymore because I thought Angelina Jolie was hot. So I went to school to work for the UN.
That was his 3 seconds of being a straight man. Angelina Jolie was hot.
She can still change me.
That's true. Dave, have you gotten some good ones from the audience? I'll give the microphone back.
Remember, I control the points.
So my question is, what was the most difficult question that you were asked, and how did you answer it?
Ooh, I know the answer to this, so he better be the truth. If he doesn't answer, I'll tell you.
The most difficult question in IML, or the one up here?
Any of your contests.
Any of my contests.
You were a contestant.
Well, Kim Justice made me dance to a Michael Jackson song in these boots. And do the splits.
I've got that on video too.
My Michigan leather contest was almost 50 minutes long. But hard questions. I guess one of the most difficult questions you're asked in an interview is the question you don't know. I think that's an important statement to make as well, because you know what? You're not going to know everything. But it's how you handle that situation that makes the answer. If you come across as, standoffish or whatever, I just admit, I'm not going to know everything. Those questions are difficult.
Did that happen to you, Woody?
It did happen to me, Dave.
I'm not allowed to talk about that.
I was asked who the very first European IML was, and I didn't know, and I was like, I don't know. That's it.
And did you get back to Eric?
I emailed him that night. Yeah.
I remember reading in your bio, you said the running away to the ramrod was your first kind of leather experience, and spending 10 years in Orlando, ramrod was one of my first leather experiences. What was that night or that first time like?
I was on spring break with a bunch of buddies. I was straight at the time, had a girlfriend back home. Actually, no, we had just broken up, but neither here nor there. I was the last man standing, so I took the rental car to this bar and met a guy, not intending to go to a bar, but he said, hey, there's this other party down the street. We went to the Ramrod. It was Thursday, which is the Battle of the Bulge. I won. And my underwear, coincidentally, are probably still nailed to the wall, but my first outing as I'm experimenting gay man, I went to the Ramrod, won the contest, went home with the bartender, and got home at 5 o'clock the next day. I never looked back.
Isn't that sweet?
His name was Wes.
Oh, you got a name?
Any other questions over here?
So during IML, the time between now and IML, there was a lot of stress in your life and our relationship. you were writing your IML speech, I was writing the eulogy for my grandma's funeral at the same time. And during that stress, during the weekend and so forth, all these men are going to be competing. What advice do you have for them or their partners to provide support during that weekend?
Sometimes you gotta let things go. I was extremely organized when I went into IML. In my head, I knew exactly what I was wearing when. You don't have to do all that, but I think it's important to just mentally prepare yourself to let things happen as they happen. As kind of a cop-out answer as that is, you can't control the tides of change or what have you. You just got to let it go and have fun with it. It's kind of a generic answer, but that is the answer. Wow, quiet crowd.
All right, well, I guess this will be wrapping up our exit interview with Woody Woodruff, IML 2012. Thank you all for coming out this afternoon. Make sure you have a good time here at Claw. And for those of you that are Claw virgins that have not lost your virginity, what the fuck is wrong with you? It's already Saturday. So go have fun. And, if you want to hit them up with any questions, you can ask those privately, I suppose. And thank you for coming here. Have a good one.
Oh, they're filling out their cards.
I'm like, they're just sitting there. We're ready to hear.
Are you judging?
Yeah, don't bring him back here.
Yes, you're the judge. Wait now.
Don't bring